This is my brand new laptop, and it's currently running both CachyOS and Windows 11. Today, we're going to talk about installing CachyOS and compare it to setting up Windows 11 on a new laptop. In the future, we'll look deeper into CachyOS and other Linux distros, but this video focuses on installation alone. This particular laptop has an additional NVMe slot, meaning I can install a second SSD and run CachyOS off of that one while continuing to run Windows 11 off of the original SSD. This isn't a requirement, just something I wanted to be transparent about. The first real requirement, though, is setting up the USB drive to boot into CachyOS. I used an old laptop to download Balena Etcher, the ISO file from CachyOS's website, and used those to prepare the boot drive. This next part requires a little bit of research depending on your laptop model. For mine, I had to tap F2 while powering on in order to get into the boot menu. From there, I gave the USB drive priority by moving it to the top of the boot options list. Then I disabled Secure Boot and restarted the computer. I tried to fix the screen protector and I made it worse. So after about 15 minutes of research, downloading, and waiting, a tiny bit of configuring, I was met with a few options and I decided to go with standard CachyOS. I have to say, out of all three, maybe it's four, Linux distros I've installed so far, CachyOS has been the most straightforward. The first time I installed Linux, it was recommended to use an Ethernet connection. So I got this adapter for about 10 bucks. I'll put a few links in the description to things I've used in this video that won't cost you anything extra if you buy them, but it forces Amazon to pay me a small kickback out of their own profit. I've made dozens of dollars at this point. Looking at the installer, listed across the bottom are all of the pages you'll have to go through in order to fully set up. I spent some time looking into file formats and went with BTRFS so I can learn more about snapshots. But once again, the hardest decision is choosing a desktop environment, because a desktop environment is really controlling how you're going to be interacting with whichever distro you end up going with. Because I'm most familiar with KDE Plasma, I went ahead and chose that. Then the installation took about 20 minutes once I went through the entire menu. So I went in, got all of the updates done, installed all of the software I wanted, which CachyOS made very easy using a graphical user interface. So getting this whole device set up required zero terminal knowledge, which is definitely not something you should be afraid of, but is understandably intimidating for new users. After all of this, I was ready to go with CachyOS in less than an hour. One cool thing about this laptop is that the RGB lights on the keyboard still work. There are tons of options that you can dig into, but I didn't do any of that here since I just wanted to get the installation done and see how it compares to getting Windows 11 installed. Setting up Windows 11 took forever, and that's partially because there were so many updates required, but this computer was released not even a year ago, so why it had to go through so many updates is beyond me. All in all, I had to go through nearly 3 times as many steps to set up Windows 11 as I did installing CachyOS. It was definitely more simple because I didn't have to do any research, but that's mostly due to familiarity. The amount of terms and conditions I had to agree to was really eye-opening, especially after installing CachyOS just an hour or two previously. Lots of things that we just typically hit next for without reading, which fine, at this point you know there are sacrifices in terms of privacy, customizability, and user control. You're also required to log into your Microsoft Outlook account. There might be some workarounds still, but I wasn't about to dig into those, especially after the installation was taking so long. And on top of this, I was due for an update as soon as I was fully logged in. But installing Windows 11 took so long that I ended up reinstalling it on this computer and my old laptop just to see if I had maybe done something wrong. The first time around, the installation took over 2 hours on the same laptop that it took less than an hour to install CachyOS. The second time was a little bit quicker because a lot of the updates were already installed, so Microsoft was able to hold on to those Windows updates. Seeing that Lenovo and Nvidia had updates to go on this one, those were part of that initial 2-hour block. Doing a full restore on my 2023 HP laptop that does not have a graphics card still took about an hour and a half. So take that for what it's worth. I just wanted to share it to be as objective as possible. On CachyOS, I was able to do all of the updates, install an Office suite, my gaming platforms, and a few other essential apps that I didn't even get to with Windows 11 because I had already invested so much time and I was exhausted. And look, I know I might sound like a Windows hater here, but I actually think Windows 11 looks great and it functions just fine. But there are a lot of things that I don't want to get into in this video that have led me to really seek out an alternate option. So one cool thing about CachyOS is the only thing even remotely similar to an ad is the donate button right here on the welcome screen. So I just want to say I recommend donating if you can to any of the distros you use or any of the free and open source software if you can afford it. I'm willing to pay people who have the skills to give me alternatives that resonate a little bit more with my personal values. As much as it seems trendy to hate on big tech, when you look at an organization like Valve, they've made billions by putting customers first, and they're very well respected and loved because of that. Yeah, there are going to be headaches with Linux. Every now and then, something's just not going to work the way you're used to it working. But I think we're at a point in time where you're essentially choosing your headache. Anytime I need support from one of the big tech companies, it's as though I'm the first person who's ever encountered that issue. Anytime I've struggled with Linux, I've been able to find community support because this is built by people who care, people who are passionate and interested. No payment expected or required in most cases. So if you're interested in exploring CachyOS or other Linux distros or just technology in general, please consider hitting that subscribe button and joining me in my mission to take back my tech. I'll be reviewing Linux Mint very soon since I owe it thanks to the distro wheel choosing that last time. I should have probably done it for this video, but I got distracted, so I apologize. Thank you so much for visiting. I'm Torpal, your neighbor nerd, supporting your right to choose the tech you use. Stop by again sometime, and have a beautiful day.